True crime narrative, The Bride's Deal. Episode 1, Malibu Cliff Lies. They say weddings are about love, but sometimes they hide something much darker. Jessica Parks had just married Terrence Dawson. The ballroom was filled with music, lights, and champagne. But her eyes weren't on her new husband. They were locked on Anthony Bennett, the man standing in the shadows watching her closely. Jessica looked like the perfect bride. But beneath the silk gown and polished smile was a secret deal, one she made out of desperation, one that could destroy everything she was trying to build. Welcome to Deadly Vows, where we peel back the polished surfaces and expose the lies hiding underneath. Tonight's case takes us from Compton to Malibu, from dreams of stability to deadly choices. Jessica came from struggle, raised by a single mother who worked night shifts just to keep the lights on. She wanted a better life, and she worked hard for it. College, a marketing job. Still, money was tight, and fear of going back to poverty never left her. Then came Terrence, smart, stable, raised in a good home. He had a high-paying job at a top investment firm in LA, mentored by the firm's powerful CEO, Anthony Bennett. Jessica fell for him fast. A proposal came, then a luxury apartment. A wedding was planned. But then Jessica lost her job. The market was tough and no one was hiring. She kept it quiet. She didn't want to seem like a burden. So she lied, said she was freelancing while secretly sinking into debt. That's when Anthony stepped in. At their engagement party, he approached her. Calm, cold, smiling. He knew she was unemployed, and he made her an offer, a fake job, real money. All she had to do was tell him what Terrence was up to, what he was thinking, what he was planning at work. Anthony called it mentorship, but Jessica knew better. It was spying. Still, she said yes, because the bills were drowning her, because she thought she could control it. The first payment wiped out her debt, covered wedding costs. Everything looked perfect again, on the surface. But the deal didn't stop there. Anthony wanted more, and Jessica's lies grew deeper. This isn't just a story about marriage. It's about power, manipulation, and betrayal. And before long, one of the men in this triangle would end up dead. Coming up, what really happened on the cliffs of Malibu and how a bride's secret arrangement turned into a nightmare no one saw coming. Episode 2, The Price of Silence. Anthony Bennett didn't just want casual updates anymore. He wanted everything. Private conversations, Terrence's thoughts about his co-workers, and his long-term plans. Jessica was stuck. She gave Anthony enough to keep him happy, but tried not to betray her fiancé too deeply. It was a tightrope walk. Terrence, meanwhile, was thriving at Meridian. He thought it was because of his hard work and Anthony's mentorship. Every time he came home with news of a promotion or a bonus, Jessica smiled, but her guilt was growing. She knew the truth. Those wins came with invisible strings. Then, just before the wedding, Jessica finally landed a new marketing job. It didn't pay much, but it gave her hope. Maybe she could end the arrangement. She met Anthony in a coffee shop to tell him, but Anthony wasn't letting go. "We've built something useful here," he said with a cold smile, "and Terrence is about to be considered for the Tokyo account. It'd be a shame to disrupt that. That account would mean a huge step forward in Terrence's career." Jessica didn't have to ask what Anthony meant. If she walked away, Terrence would pay the price. Then, 2 weeks before the wedding, Anthony raised the stakes. He didn't just want inside info. He wanted Jessica to influence Terrence to push through a deal that would make Anthony a lot of money, even if it meant hurting their clients. When Jessica pushed back, Anthony reminded her of every payment he'd made to her. Payments that could be framed as corporate bribery. "You've been so helpful," he said softly. "It'd be terrible if it all fell apart right before your big day." Jessica finally understood. She wasn't in control. She never had been. The morning of the wedding was picture perfect. Blue skies over Beverly Hills. Jessica stood in her suite at the Four Seasons, staring at her reflection in a flawless white dress. Her mother adjusted her train, eyes wet with pride. "You did it, baby," she whispered. Jessica couldn't respond. Her dream day was built on lies, and the weight of it all was crushing her. Just then, a text buzzed in. It was from Anthony. Looking forward to your special day. Remember Tokyo? Jessica deleted it immediately. Her bridesmaid Monique noticed the change in her expression. You look like you've seen a ghost, Monique said. Jessica forced a smile. Just nerves. Across the hotel, Terrence was getting ready with his best man. He had no idea what was coming. Then Anthony showed up. Despite the wedding planner's protests, Anthony insisted on a quick meeting with Terrence. He said it was urgent, a client emergency. In the business center, he handed over paperwork for the Tokyo account and told Terrence it needed a signature before Monday. I don't usually do this on someone's wedding day, Anthony said, but I wanted to congratulate you in person. Terrence flipped through the papers. Something wasn't right. The fees were higher than expected. The risk disclosures were vague. The deal heavily favored Meridian and Anthony. This isn't what we discussed, Terrence said. The fees doubled, and the risk section is barely there. Anthony didn't blink. It's a market adjustment. Jessica said you'd understand. Terrence looked up. Jessica? When did she say that? Oh, just in passing, at the engagement party. She mentioned you were flexible. The answer didn't sit well, but with the ceremony minutes away, Terrence signed, telling himself he'd look into it after the honeymoon. The wedding was beautiful. California sun, soft music, tearful vows. Jessica walked down the aisle, trying to believe in the moment. Terrence looked at her like she was his whole world. They said, I do. At the reception, Anthony approached with a bold gift, an envelope. My gift to you both, he said, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. 3 nights at my Malibu beach house. Total privacy. Gorgeous views. A perfect pre-honeymoon. Jessica froze. That house was where she'd secretly met him before, where lies were exchanged like currency. Now he was forcing her back there. Terrence was surprised but thanked him. We already booked. All taken care of, Anthony interrupted. The hotel starts after Malibu. Jessica couldn't protest. His look said it all. This is happening. Throughout the reception, anyone watching closely might have noticed how Jessica tensed when Anthony got near, or how Terrence frowned when he saw them speaking alone. One person was watching closely, Olivia Heath, LAPD detective, and Terrence's cousin-in-law. She wasn't just family. She was trained to spot things other people missed. She saw how Jessica's smile faded when Anthony touched her arm. She saw the subtle strain in Terrence's jaw. To Olivia, it wasn't just wedding day stress. Something felt wrong, and soon she'd have good reason to trust her instincts, because the honeymoon wasn't the only thing waiting for the newlyweds in Malibu. Jessica Parks had always believed secrets were easier to carry when they were wrapped in good intentions. But on her wedding day, they began to unravel fast. Her best friend Monique cornered her near the restroom, concern etched into her face. Don't lie to me, Jess, Monique said. I've known you too long. What's going on with that man? Jessica hesitated. It's complicated. He's Terrence's boss. I have to keep things friendly. Monique scoffed. That wasn't friendly. That was fear. Is he threatening you? Jessica's smile faltered. Please drop it. Today's supposed to be happy. Monique backed off, but not without leaving her friend with a final reminder. You can tell me anything. That's what best friends are for. As the reception wound down, Anthony Bennett, the groom's boss, approached Terrence with a drink in hand and too much confidence. You're a lucky man, Anthony said. Jessica's very resourceful. There was something in the way he said it, too familiar, too knowing, that made Terrence uncomfortable. She'd do anything for your future, Anthony added before walking away. Tokyo account's waiting. We'll talk when you're back. Anthony had arranged their honeymoon stay at a glass-walled beach house in Malibu. As they drove up the coast, Jessica clutched Terrence's hand, the ocean glowing gold beside them. Everything okay? Terrence asked. Just overwhelmed, Jessica replied with a forced smile. But during dinner, Terrence brought it up again. Anthony said you talked about the Tokyo account's fees. When did that happen? Jessica kept her face still. He probably twisted something I said at the engagement party. Terrence didn't push, but the seed of suspicion was planted. The next afternoon, Jessica was asleep when Terrence picked up her phone to order food. A banking app he didn't recognize caught his eye. One click revealed months of payments, thousands of dollars deposited regularly by Bennett Consulting Solutions. The latest payment had come just before the wedding. That night, Terrence couldn't hold it in. "Jess, what's your connection to Anthony?" he asked. "And why is his company paying you?" Jessica froze. Her carefully constructed lies teetered. Before she could answer, headlights cut through the darkness. A sleek Maserati rolled into the driveway. Anthony Bennett stepped out, grinning like he owned the place. And maybe in some ways he did. "Hope I'm not interrupting," he said smoothly. "I just need a few signatures. Business can't wait." He placed a leather folder on the table and poured himself a drink, ignoring the tension in the air. "We were just talking about your side business," Terrence said coldly. Anthony chuckled. "Jessica's been helping with market insight. Very useful." Terrence looked at Jessica, eyes searching. "Is that all it was?" Jessica's voice trembled. "Number. He was paying me for information about you, your work, your clients." The silence was deafening. "How long?" Terrence asked. "Since a few months after we got engaged," Jessica confessed. "I lost my job. I didn't want to burden you." Anthony raised his glass. She was thorough, very valuable. What started as financial desperation had become a betrayal Jessica couldn't take back. Now cornered on a cliffside patio with her husband and the man who had manipulated her, Jessica realized the truth was no longer hers to control. And as the waves crashed against the rocks below, someone wouldn't be leaving that house alive. Aaron shot up from his seat, the chair scraping loudly against the stone floor. "You planned my entire career around information Jessica was feeding you?" he said, stunned. Jessica stood too, reaching for his hand, but he pulled it away. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she said quickly. "At first it was just to help with the bills. But then he threatened me. Said if I stopped, he'd ruin your career." "She's telling the truth," Anthony chimed in, calm and cold. "Once you're in my circle, you don't walk away unless I say so." He pointed at a folder. "By the way, those Tokyo deal papers need your signature." Terrence opened the folder and skimmed through the documents, his face twisting in disgust. "These are worse than the drafts. There's barely any disclosure. This looks like fraud." "It's all legal," Anthony said with a smirk, "just tilted heavily in our favor. It's the kind of deal that makes careers or destroys them, depending on how cooperative someone is." That's when it all clicked for Terrence. "This whole thing, it was a setup," he said. "You've been grooming me to be your scapegoat. In case these deals blow up, I take the fall and you walk away clean." "I prefer the term insurance policy," Anthony said, finishing his drink. Jessica stepped forward, crying. "I didn't realize it would go this far. I thought I was helping you, not setting you up." "By spying on me?" Terrence said, voice rising. "Selling my ideas and plans to the man who was preparing to destroy me?" "Enough drama," Anthony snapped. "Sign the papers, or I'll make sure neither of you have a career when you get back from Hawaii." And Jessica, accepting money the way she did could be seen as bribery. She could face criminal charges. Terrence looked at Jessica, his wife, the woman he loved, the woman who betrayed him. Then he looked at Anthony, his mentor, the man who twisted everything. "I'm not signing anything," Terrence said, "and on Monday I'm reporting this to the SEC and the Ethics Committee." For the first time, Anthony lost his cool. "You ungrateful idiot," he growled, stepping toward Terrence. "You really think I won't destroy you both? One call and Jessica is investigated for corporate espionage, and everyone will know your success was manufactured." "Better that," Terrence replied, "than staying in this mess." Anthony grabbed Terrence's arm, squeezing hard. "You don't get to walk away. Everything you have, your job, your reputation, even your wife, you have because I allowed it." Jessica stepped between them, trying to break it up. "Stop, both of you." But the tension exploded. The argument turned physical. They stumbled dangerously close to the edge of the patio, where the railing was low and the cliff dropped steeply into the ocean below. Papers flew out of the folder, caught by the wind. In the chaos, Anthony shoved Jessica aside. She tripped and crashed into a chair. "You think principles matter?" Anthony spat. "Success is built on leverage, on information. Your wife understood that better than you ever did." Terrence snapped. He lunged at Anthony. "Don't talk about her. They grappled, shoes sliding on the smooth stone. Jessica screamed, running toward them as they struggled at the cliff's edge. It was impossible to tell exactly what happened, who pushed who, or if it was just a tragic accident. Suddenly, Terrence slipped. For a moment, everything froze. His eyes locked with Jessica's. Shock, pain, and maybe a trace of love passed between them. Then he fell. His scream vanished beneath the sound of waves smashing into the rocks far below. Jessica shrieked, running to the edge. Anthony grabbed her, yanking her back. "Don't be stupid," he hissed, his grip bruising. "He's gone. There's nothing you can do." Jessica collapsed onto the cold patio floor, her body trembling, her mind barely able to process what had just happened. Anthony stood nearby, already thinking ahead, already calculating. Closing remark. True crime. Conclusion. In the end, what began as a secret arrangement to ease financial pressure spiraled into a deadly game of manipulation, betrayal, and power. Jessica Parks thought she was protecting her husband by playing along with his boss's demands. Terrence Dawson believed he was climbing the ladder through merit and hard work. And Anthony Bennett, the man behind the curtain, used them both as pawns in a scheme built on greed and leverage. Terrence's fall from that cliff wasn't just physical, it was symbolic of everything he'd lost: trust, control, and ultimately his life. The truth, when it came to light, exposed the dark underbelly of corporate ambition, where loyalty is currency and morality can be bought. Anthony was later indicted on multiple charges, including securities fraud and obstruction of justice. Jessica cooperated fully with authorities and avoided prison time, though her public and personal life were left in ruins. Terrence's death served as a grim reminder. In the world of high-stakes business, integrity can be a liability. And sometimes the greatest danger doesn't come from outside threats, but from the people closest to you. Justice came, late and at a high cost. But it came, and the fall of one man revealed the true price of ambition built on betrayal. Thank you, and final note. Thank you for taking the time to read this true crime narrative. We appreciate your curiosity, your empathy, and your willingness to explore the complex layers of human behavior, ambition, and consequence. This story was written not to sensationalize tragedy, but to shed light on the dangers of unchecked power, manipulation, and ethical compromise. It is intended to provoke thought, foster awareness, and encourage critical reflection, especially about the choices we make, the secrets we keep, and the influence others can hold over our lives. Disclaimer. This content is a dramatized retelling based on true crime themes, created purely for educational and informational purposes. Names, events, and specific dialogues have been fictionalized or altered to protect identities and simplify complex legal details. Any resemblance to real persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental unless explicitly stated. This work is not intended to defame, accuse, or substitute for professional legal or psychological counsel. We encourage readers to use this story as a tool for learning, empathy, and deeper understanding, not as entertainment alone. Crime leaves behind real victims, and their pain is never fiction. Thank you again for reading and for engaging with this story with the seriousness and respect it deserves.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more